Well, where to start? Let me see. So we did. I definitely something that was not great was failing NaNoWriMo last year. Yeah, it hurt pretty bad. I know that I've been working on projects in and out, and I keep starting new projects, which is the curse of constantly running into bunny trails. I think those, as far as my writing goes, I had kind of a weird falling out with horror for a minute there, mostly because I wanted to explore with different genres. But I'm kind of like gravitating back towards it because it's horror is a very specific lifestyle, and it's something that I like.
I feel like you can write multi-genre though as well. You know, if it's something you're interested in. 'Cause, I mean, I also write science fiction, and I have a Western novel that's like setting at 10,000 words. It's like super. It's pretty far from horror, I think, as you can get.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that I felt kind of out of my element, even though I was still writing. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of mixing kind of Pan's Labyrinth meets the Labyrinth for a current novel that I'm working on right now. I know I mentioned in the last episode or two that project I'm working on is called Janie. I just got the cover art back from my artist, and he even did a live stream of that. And watching him really motivated the living hell out of me. So this month, one of my resolutions, the resolution this year for me, I would say would be to publish another book. I would like to publish at least one novel a year. That way I can keep myself active and to be a little bit more successful with the actual marketing of it. I'm not really well versed in it, but last night I took a trip to Barnes & Noble, and I got the Breakout Novelist by Donald Moss, and it's basically how to craft novels that stand out and sell. It's recommended by Writer's Digest, and I follow them pretty closely. So that's something I'm going to be working on this year.
That's exciting. So my New Year's resolution is to put out all those books, all my trunk novels, pretty much. I think I've talked about it in just about every episode at this point, but I finish projects and then jump to new projects and never edit them and put them out. So my New Year's thing is no matter how disinterested I became in a project, it's sitting at above 12,000 words. I'm going to finish it. It's not already finished. And I'm going to edit it and I'm going to release it before I start anything else.
Nice. I'm into that because I know that you work really hard in your projects, and it would suck for you to pull a Emily Dickinson and then die, and then someone finds 100 manuscripts of random stuff on your computer after you die.
My first drafts go are so fucking terrible.
I think everyone's.
People be like, oh, this is why he was this weirdo.
This guy was a psychopath. I get it now.
This guy, not a good writer, this guy.
It was Ernest Hemingway who said, "Everyone's first draft is shit."
Reading my first draft makes me feel like I'm doing German homework again because I could have possibly have a reading thing. What do I mean by this? This is awful. It becomes a little less awful in editing.
Nice. Well, yeah, that's the whole point of editing. I think we've established that I am. I hate my editors based on the work that I give them. I don't actually hate my editors; they're my best friends. But what I've been doing. Oh yeah, that's what else I've been up to. So I've been beta reading for this one guy, and I guess we can just kind of. I guess I'll just dive into how to make yourself a little bit more successful. Is something that definitely helps me out, especially with all the complete novels that I had from Colorado. I finally ran into someone local here who also writes. He goes by the pen name J.M. York. and he writes occult horror. So he is probably the most well-versed Lovecraftian fan I've ever met. And he knows all about the mythos and the old ones and everything. And what he's done is, I won't give away a lot about his book, but it's pretty good. He's asked me to beta read a couple things for him. So the first one he gave me was occult horror. I enjoyed it. It gave him a few pointers based on what I got out of it. And he's having me read a cyberpunk piece that he's working on right now, which is also pretty good. And it's one thing where you're asking somebody else if they want to beta read for you. It's another thing where someone trusts your opinion enough to come to you with beta reading their novel for them. And I think that's kind of a huge honor, and people should take that seriously. And one of the, you'll see that on my Twitter, I did post when I finished reading his first novel, that one of the curses that comes with the honor of beta reading is telling the writer that they need to change something. I'm not great at telling other writers that they need to change something because I know how much work it is based on my own experience.
And that's why I think, so I don't really do the whole beta reading thing myself, but I think it is important that if you do get beta readers, that they read other writers. Does that make sense?
Yeah. One of the things that there are two sides to that coin. One side you have another writer's perspective, but you also need to have a reader's perspective, not just someone who writes, because I was watching, I know it's a love story, but it's a great movie, Midnight in Paris with Owen Wilson. Really great movie. Yeah, the movie gives me such a hard-on for writing. There's a scene where he's talking to Hemingway, and Hemingway is one of my favorites, and what he says to Owen Wilson's character is, I haven't read it, and I hate it already. And he says, and Wilson says, why is that? He says, well, as a writer, if I read it and your writing is really good, I'll envy you for it, and I'll hate you for that. If it's poor writing, then I'm going to hate it for it being poor writing. So no matter what, I'm going to hate it. You need to have someone who reads and not someone who writes. And, man, classic Hemingway, right? Anyway, so... so that's something that I keep in mind. So I try to find people who read and do less of the writing. But so far, no beta readers really get back to me so far. Maybe this podcast will change things, but that's its own story.
And I think it's also, like, I'll see people post, and I think Dean Wesley Smith went into this in better detail than I could ever try to, about the dangers of having, like, just a certain amount of beta readers. Because I'll see people post, and it's almost like a badge of honor. They'll be like, I have 16 beta readers, or like 32 beta readers.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, man, art is so subjective.
Yeah.
I could not have, like, that's just 32 different opinions.
Right.
Like,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's why I try to keep it to a minimum of the max that I've done is 5, because I also need to pick my beta readers better, because usually the beta readers are people that are like, oh yeah, I'd love to read it, when it's really people just want early access to your shit. And yeah, exactly. It's funny because I'm not going to call my beta readers out by name, but I did have a couple of beta readers who were like, oh yeah, I definitely get to it, and A, they didn't get to it, and B, they don't read, and C, they just, like, now they have a free copy of the thing, and they ended up not buying a copy when it came out, which is, beta reading for someone, I automatically know that I have to buy that now, because I've made a commitment to that book.
Well, it's not obligated. I don't think authors push it, but it's kind of just, it's a nice thing to do.
Yeah, it's a neighborly thing to do. This Mr. York fella that I've met, he's it's really crazy, because I remember myself being in his shoes and asking, how do I make this work? How do I make that work? And I think I mentioned in previous episode that I was on a website that my uncle had created, and I had my work just completely shat on. Every time I posted something, they would just rip it up in my face and tell me it was garbage and it ain't gonna be nothing, kid. And so now I get to be on the other side of that, where someone's coming to me for advice, like, so I have the scene where this monster is doing this thing, like, what would you do from this character's perspective? And I would say, well, what is your character's reactions typically to things? And they say, wow, you're right, I should have thought about that. And I'm like, I mean, anyone who writes, certain things come to you as a no-brainer, but even I still have moments where a no-brainer moment will come up, and I'll just completely forget. You know how it is, staring at that blank screen at the beginning of the chapter, and you're like, oh, shit. So it's really cool that I can have someone come to me for that kind of help, because giving people that kind of help that I have gotten from much older people really helped me out. And so what I'm doing is that we have like this collaborative thing where we meet once every couple weeks, and we just sit down and write and read each other's work together. And you know what? My inner nerd my inner word nerd comes right out on those times where I'll be like, wow, that one sentence was so thoughtfully done. And then it just goes back and forth, and it's very motivating. That's like going to the gym by yourself. Speaking of New Year's resolutions, don't be a statistic if you're going to the gym and you're like, yeah, so I'm suddenly not motivated to go. Well, yeah, it's because you went by your fucking self. You need to have people who motivate you and keep you going. And I think that's with any kind of thing. I mean, it's definitely not my resolution. I'm not even gonna lie. After my work day, my fat ass sits down, orders a cheeseburger pizza, and drinks a gallon of Coca-Cola while I'm just sitting there and watching King of the Hill. Yeah, I have leftovers in the fridge right now. I ordered it twice in a row already. I don't know. I didn't think it was, and then one place did it, and then other places are doing it. So, I mean, it's a battle that I'm happy to be in the middle of. Just like when Eminem was going at it with MGK, like, we can only profit from that kind of battle. We're not sponsored by Domino's, but if they want to, that's cool. Ah, man, I'm all about that lava cake. Yeah, I know. Yeah, so what kind of writing foods do you typically do, Jake? Nice. Yeah. You just described my whole workday. Yeah, I don't even have a lunch break. I make myself a coffee. I recently discovered cappuccino beans, chocolate covered cappuccino beans, and oh, so good. And god damn, does that wake you up so fucking quick. So I just have a handful of those, and I'm good for the day. Well, at least until I get home. But I work early shift, so my diet consists of coffee, cold pizza, and sometimes a beer. I'm kind of a rum guy, though. Yeah, I know what I'm about, son. To quote Ron Swanson. No, mine is mainly just to finish the book, baby steps, and typically whatever I'm drinking is whatever I find in the fridge. I have so much coffee at work that when it comes down to just having something to sip on while I'm working, it's just that. But I usually want something to eat before I start, and then I'll just sit at my computer. The room I'm in right now is a part of my library that I've converted into, or it's my basement that I've converted into my library. I don't have nearly as much books as you do, holy shit. But yeah, so I try to create a space that I can think in, which is kind of, I guess you can say, ironic that I created a space for me to write better in, because I do my best work when I'm visiting, like Mr. York, or when I'm at the library with a group or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's the main reason I kind of like sectioned off my tiny ass apartment, because I think it is important to have a space to go and sit down to, okay, this is my workspace, this is a spot where I'm going to draw.
Right.
The biggest thing for me is like I can't see my TV and my TV's blocked off, so it's
Mm-hmm.
like a Bob Burger in the middle.
Yep.
Just like chill out. I can't be stuck with that world.
Right.
So that's the other thing too. I am surrounded by an insane amount of books. I already have more shelves on my wish list. So I actually have books on the way.
Mm-hmm.
Part of it is I'm a bit of an insane book collector, bibliophile, if you will.
Nice. Word of the day.
Yeah, I'm wondering about it. I love it. I love Annie's work, paperbacks. I love paperbacks. I love book art. I love everything about books and comic books. Big ass geek out here. But so that kind of ties into the next thing I want to talk about was some point putting into a
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I've seen that, not really make sales from that.
Right.
Making part of the conversation.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed that you've been more visible on Twitter for sure. I'm on Twitter probably every morning, and yeah, usually in the morning I check my Twitter feed. If I find something I like, I'll go through and whatever. But I usually just get it knocked out. As you know, I'm not on Facebook anymore because I call it the blue black hole, and man, I look at one thing, and then I'm looking at a meme, and I'm looking at another meme, and the next thing I know, I'm stalking somebody's Facebook, and then that leads to other stuff, and it's just an endless bunch of shit. And I need to avoid that. So when I'm on Facebook, I'm on there just for my writing page. So usually I'm on my writing page whenever someone sends me. So I have this challenge where people send me a selfie of them holding my book, and it's actually doing way better than I thought it would. I'm actually really excited for when my next book comes out to see the turnout for that. And I gave you the recognition for it and everything. In fact, people who spend an extra $5 gets a signed copy sent to them. But it's only like an X amount of people that do it. So I try to stay active with my community.
Yeah, you should definitely look into putting a Patreon as well.
Oh, that'd be cool.
I set one up. I don't have anybody on it. I'll be honest. I've seen people slack on adding content stuff to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I am putting. I'm gonna put the first 10 chapters of my upcoming novel, which fingers crossed is due out this month.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's something else I'm trying to play around with because I do want to do different streams of revenue at the same time, like Instagram and Twitter, Pinterest, and all these other platforms. It's organic, it's organic marketing. It's free. Like it's a big thing.
Right. And people pay you for your content.
Exactly. I get throwing money at Facebook and Amazon ads and stuff, but at the same time, I don't think I'm at the level where it's going to make a difference to me.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Yeah, I definitely get that. So when you're on that level, it's kind of like being in a different set of mind altogether. It's like work mode kind of thing.
Yeah. And so I do that being said, I do monetized advertising for new releases.
Mm-hmm.
But I think until I have a big backlist, it's just not worth it.
Yeah, I really should be doing more advertising myself. most people, a lot of what I do is stuff that you have to see my Twitter feed or my Facebook page. Actually, I should add that to my resolutions. One of my resolutions this year would be creating a website. I am not confident when it comes to website building. I failed that class when I was in high school, and ever since then I'm a little bit cautious about even trying it. But I know, high school, it's like 10 years ago, whatever, fuck over it. But so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to I really should create a website that people can look at all my work on, and I should realistically come up with a blog. Even if it's a monthly blog, I should come up with something just to keep people involved. I mean, primarily most people do it like once a week or once every 2 weeks, but I think a monthly blog should be a good start. But I need to commit to that, because when you fuck up a blog, you can fuck up everything in your name. So that's kind of what I'm nervous about doing with it. I think so. Oh yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
The same with like my author Facebook. It's because it is a slippery slope. Because I think as people who create stuff, we should never really risk, no matter what our personal views are, alienating potential readers.
Mm-hmm.
That way. And I think it's dumb too, just because the way things go is whatever's in now might not be in 10 years from now.
Right. Yeah, I do.
Like the popular opinion is now is going to be the demonized opinion 10 years from now. So why even put it out there?
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I do. That's like people who, like celebrities that were, especially in 2018, all these celebrities were having people pull things from context from their Twitter feeds, and it was fucking people up left and right because they said something controversial even for a while ago. So,
And I think that's a great point, and exactly what I'm saying, because the things they said were okay at the time and maybe helped boost them up
mm-hmm.
in the moment, but now it's like, oh, that could mess our whole career.
Yeah. Yeah, just like me constantly talking shit sometimes. Like I've talked shit about Joe Hill before. I imagine, he's a generous and great and caring guy, but I've talked shit about his writing before, and that's all in good love though. But if he had done that to me, or if he talked shit about my work, that would probably fuck me up because of his status. So. Mm-hmm.
Big Joel call video last night because I am excited about getting that off the ground, getting that going, because I can talk forever about books and stuff that I love, and I think that's the key point right there, is that I love what I'm talking about. I'm more likely, if I start reading a book and I just don't like it, I'm just going to put it down and start talking shit about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a perfect example is the Harry Potter series. I like the movies, never could get into the books. But that being said, there's a bunch of other people that disagree with me.
Yeah, like millions.
It is everything we do is subjective.
Exactly. Even being in the horror genre, just the horror genre, because when you go to, you probably run into this yourself. Like you talk to a friend of yours who is interested in reading or whatever, and they say, "Oh, you write?" You're like, "Yeah, I definitely write." And they're like, "What do you write?" I'm like, "Well, I do horror fiction." And then they're like, "Oh, well, I mean, I'm not really into horror." And then you start defending your project because, god damn it, that project is your baby, and how dare anyone say your baby's not cute? And so you're like, no, you don't understand. It's not that bad. when it is. When it is that bad.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point on it. Because, and that's really one of the reasons I'm not involved in the work group. I'm not but writing groups in the city that I live in, because a lot of them aren't, I mean, they don't say no horror,
Right.
but let's be honest.
But, yeah. Like, exactly. I know exactly what you mean. There are some people who don't talk to me anymore just because I can't write something without it being horrific. I have called the last time I won't say to what or whatever, but I have submitted work to places before, and then they tell me to tone it down, and then I'll say, okay, I can work with toning it down. Just tell me what I need to work on. And then they give me a fucking laundry list on how everything, including my plot, sucks. And then I'm like, well, I mean, that's cool, but, like, you're telling me to rewrite a whole thing. Like, give me something to work with. And then they'll be like, well, it's just not the genre we're looking for, Doc. And I'm like,
And it's like, okay, say that instead of saying it. Like, be honest.
right. Like, oh, this isn't the genre that I write, so horror writing is worse than what I do. And that's a really slippery slope to go down, because I've caught myself. I have, like, no beef with people who do fantasy. Honestly, I think you have to be a brave person to do fantasy, because if you go into any bookstore, do you know how big that fucking fantasy section is? And to get your name noticed, you know how lucky George R. R. Martin is that people love him as much as they do? It's fucking amazing. Yeah.
I think if that's yeah, definitely. If you're a fantasy writer, you're playing the long game.
Yeah. But like with horror, every time I go to a used bookstore, which are like, I'd rather go to a used bookstore than I would like Barnes and Noble. But I go to a bookstore, and the horror section is like a foot wide and like 6 feet tall. But like the rest of the bookstore is there, and you're just kind of like with this 3 short shelves, and you're like, okay, well, there's Stephen King, Stephen King, Stephen King, Stephen King, Koontz, Stephen King, Stephen King. Huh, that one I've never heard before. And that's usually the one I end up getting. I've got a couple of good ones that way. Like James Swain's Dark Magic was such a good read. It's about a magician in New York, and his whole gig is that he's actually a magician, but ironically, he really is a magician. Like, he's actually, like, has special powers. And so, he, like, uses mindfuck tactics to stop a guy who kills magicians. So it's really good, really good read. I ended up letting someone borrow that. I traded it for the Necronomicon. I mean, Neuromancer. I traded it for Neuromancer, which I think is a good trade.
Not a bad trade.
No.
I still need to get a physical copy of Neuromancer. I'm still reading it on, I have it on my e-reader.
hmm
It's just not the same.
Yeah. Lately for Audible, I've been listening to a combination of, I say Necromancer, but I really have been listening to Necromancer. I have like 20 hours left. It's like a 30-hour read. And considering all the HP Lovecraft that's out there, I think that's pretty short. But I also am super crazy about the classics. It's just the classics are what got me into reading. So I always kind of return back to them, and I've been listening to the Picture of Dorian Gray, or the Portrait of Dorian Gray, excuse me. Oscar Wilde for the win, right? Yeah, so that's what I've been into lately, and the more I listen to it, I don't really listen to like the story because it's not new to me. I know the story, but I listen to all of them, and I read classic American lit because I want to ask myself, why is this so fucking good? What's making this so popular? Why is Harry Potter so popular? Why is it that Avatar is such a great TV show? Why is it that these scenes in John Wick stick out to me? So what I do is I take all those scenes in my head and on screen, and I try to replay them in my own kind of twist. And so I take like the Vacation Planet is the perfect example of I can see all of these scenes like a movie in my head, and I feel like if you can't see it like a movie in your head, then you need to like take a deep breath because if you don't see it happening in your head and you see it like you're listening to the monotonous voice of your English teacher just droning on, that's when you need to take a break because you don't want to just drag through it. The Black Expose may never be published, mostly because I dragged my ass through that whole thing. I had almost no fun writing it. And that's not the point. Like, yes, writing is a pain in the balls, and some people must write. Like, I feel like that sometimes is I have to write. However, you know, you have to have fun with it too. That's why I'm working with Janie, which is my project in the making. This project is like a mix of Pan's Labyrinth and David Bowie's Labyrinth, minus David Bowie's junk. And it's like... it is probably the most fun I've ever written a novel in my life. So this is why I'm working on this book this year. That's my tangent.
Yeah, is so I want. Well, let me go back to like the short story submissions and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's something I wanted to get back into in 2019.
Yeah.
And then the more I thought about it, the less sense it made to me.
What's that?
Well, because I've had the similar experiences where you submit, you write like a 3,000 to 5,000 word short story, whatever, and then you submit it to one of like some team that's only gonna pay you $5. They want the rights. They want the rights to the story for like 3
Yeah.
years or some shit.
Right.
And then they also at the same time are like, well, let's change this, and this.
By the time you're done, you feel like a sellout.
Well, it's not even like I feel like a sellout. It's just don't think it's worth my time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It makes me look like I just wasted my time.
And you're like, I'm doing this for $5.
Yeah, I'm doing it for $5, and what I've really gotten into now is whenever I see a submissions thing, I'll look them up on Amazon Press, and a lot of times their press, like their Amazon
Like their presence.
whatever, are lower than my own books. And I'm like, well, and I'm not saying I'm like a great seller, but I do move several copies a week.
Mm-hmm. Nice. You're doing better than me.
So, I mean, but to be fair, my books have also been up longer. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
Like they have,
It does.
what is it? We also bought some stuff, so they have the backlinks going to other books, which your books I'm sure are getting now.
Yeah.
And so you will continue to get probably organic sales. But the problem is too, once the newness wears off, and I found that out in Float and Wolfsbane, those sales do kind of drop off. Especially like I was pretty lucky with Float just because Float was such a small genre. I mean, there's nothing new for writing shark books,
Right.
and the people that read them, they're always looking for more, so they're more willing to take a chance. Whereas werewolf books like Wolfsbane are dime a dozen.
Yeah. That's true.
It is what it is.
It's a shame because there's actually good werewolf books out there. Blood and Chocolate was one of the first novels I read in high school that I really fell in love with. Honestly, I think it's the first novel, maybe the only one that I've read twice. Mostly because I kept finding stuff that I wasn't super into because I was a super angsty teen. It's not a phase, ma, but I really got into that book. I know it's kind of a chick book, but it's whatever.
The way the market is, it's not hitting my book. It's just not hitting the right notes. Really, there's just not enough people looking for werewolf horror novels to keep them viable. People, the mass majority of people looking for werewolf books want surface alpha romance.
Mm-hmm.
And, sadly, I don't write that. If I'm still booked by 2020, I might start. But as of 2019, I'm not writing it.
You know what this is missing? A love triangle!
So yeah, there's that. So what I've looked at doing is, and I've been studying it, is Wattpad, and then there's a couple other
Mm-hmm.
fact that, hey, I'm a fucking fiction writer. You know, like, what better way, like, to put that out? Because it is hard for some people to be like, hey, take a chance on my, like, 200-300-page novel, and hey, you don't have
Right.
to, you know, instead of wanting, you know, I don't know how fast everyone reads. I can finish a book in a day.
Mm-hmm.
With some people, it takes weeks, it takes months, it takes years. That's a
Yeah.
long time they're asking.
Yeah. Usually it takes me about a week, but you know, everybody has their excuses. Everyone has, you know what to say about excuses. But it usually takes me about a week to get through maybe a 200-page book. That beta read, because I was also analyzing it, took me a couple weeks. But when I buckle down to a book, I kill that shit. I don't know about a day. The best I can do is I was on CQ and I used to read entire books during CQ, but you literally had 24 fucking hours to read a book, and you're not even allowed to sleep. So there's that.
Well, and I mean, in your defense, too, and in everyone's defense, a lot of the books I read aren't super, super long.
Mm-hmm.
I like book bulky stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and it's easy to get through. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Right. You can do it on the fly, kind of thing.
You don't have to really think about it. Like, everything you read, you can take at face value. There's no deeper philosophical context I need to go back and reread these pages for.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I'm doing science fiction or epic fantasy or stuff like that, yeah, it takes me longer to slog through, especially if they got crazy language. But without going off on a tangent, like, I want to let's get back to the short stories.
Yeah.
So yeah, Wattpad. There's another website called Comical. There's a couple others. And what I want to do, because they do get good views, is I'm going to start putting a short workout on there. I already have about 5 shorts done, and I'm just going to put them out. Not all at once, because my the research I did shows that you kind of got to like almost trickle effect
Mm-hmm.
of the algorithms.
Right.
But I think going forward, it just seems to make more sense because why should I submit to a zine where I'm going to get like a token payment and then, you know, it doesn't make sense for everybody. There's some people that love that process.
Right.
I feel like if I wrote more mainstream stuff, I would also love that process.
Yeah. I'm kind of a hipster when it comes to that kind of stuff. I'm literally trying to break away from what the usual is, hence the novel I'm reading right now, The Breakout Novelist. It literally teaches, okay, so what did so-and-so do that made it stand out? One of the chapters is called From Napkin to Novel, or something like that, or as like National Winner or whatever shit. Basically, it's about Rowling. It's about Rowling and how she started by writing Harry Potter on fucking napkins, and now she made like the most money that any author's ever made, or something like that. Excuse me. But what she did was she created something that was different than what normal people were used to. No one's used to, like, people have seen wizards a million times over. They've never seen like a 12-year-old kid go to wizarding school for that shit.
Yeah, they
Where
think it's called Books of Magic.
I was waiting for it. I was waiting for it. Oh, I leaned into that one.
You open yourself up wide for that shot.
Oh, I did. That was my bad example, I guess. But like, look at Tolkien. Let's just go with Tolkien on this one. He went to school for all these different languages and stuff, and he used what he knew about languages to create new ones and shit like that, and characters and whatever. And that's what made him stand out. Poe stood out because he was the one who truly showed man's true madness being true evil. And Lovecraft showed like occult horror and like monsters from space and stuff, and he's the one that really made him stand out. So if you can create that thing that stands out, even just your world. Look at the best Avatar, the Last Airbender. Look at the rules of that fantasy world and see why that stands out. It's pretty solid.
A lot of those examples, though, is we live in a time where everyone gets their pick in it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I think you have to do so much more. You have
That's
to be
true.
conscious about how many eyes you can get on your work.
That's true.
You know, if the zine only has a circulation size of 500 people in Indiana, why do I want to submit to them when I can take that same story, put it on Wattpad, which has like 11, I think it's like 11 million users.
Holy shit.
Royal Road is also up there, and these are all international websites. And like I said, there's other ones as well. I still own all the rights to my work. I can still publish them on Amazon. I can put it up there for free with a shitty cover. I can put it up there for 99 cents with a mediocre cover. You can do 5 for the story too, part of me.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like, you know, it just makes more sense. Now, that being said, there are some zines that offer royalty payments, and I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, I think if you can get to something like that, that's not too bad. Because, and I am getting a lot more money conscious, I think. Because, you know, I kind of get overhead, like, looking at the marketing aspects and all this, and this. And then I forget to look at, like, that 80-20 thing.
Right.
What is it? 80% of what you do or whatever. I don't know. It's from a book. It's not really smart.
I believe that though. I spent a lot of money just on editing. Then I spent money on my cover. I spent money on ordering my own physical copies in bulk. And 20% I think is about what I've got back, so I think that's pretty fair. I ended up selling a few by hand, and people who ordered the special ones where I sent out 10 copies, and each of them had a signature and a card for me thanking them for purchasing my book and their support. And if I actually had a beta reader for Vacation Planet, I would have given them a free copy. But hey, yeah. But I don't know. Nowadays, people are. I think we live in a very distracted world, and that distraction is so difficult for people to focus on reading now. We can't all just get off Facebook like Joe did. We can, you know. I was on that blue black hole for 10 years, and I'm just now getting away from it because I know how much of a hazard it is to me. So.
I mean, it is, you know, it kind of is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why it's dangerous when I hear people tell authors that, you know, don't worry about, like, your work should stand out, don't worry about marketing, this, and this. And I'm like,
It'll sell itself bullshit. Yeah.
But I heard it, that last author event I went to, you know, a lot of, like, the older writers that were there selling their books were like, well, I don't understand why I have to do marketing. That's ridiculous. I'm an author. Well, I guess you're going to be broke. So, unless you're going to really enjoy, like, you like ramen. Start.
Yeah, working full time as an author is kind of a dream come true. However, like there's like a 5% chance of that actually happening.
Yeah. But yeah, so the other thing is audiobooks. I think in 2019 I want to post my own audiobooks.
Yep. I think I mentioned this about Vacation Planet, but I got a hold of a guy who wants to actually, and he's got the right voice for it. In my head, his voice is how I imagine Amp's voice. But he's going to be narrating it. He wants to finish reading it a couple of times first, kind of get it down, and then we'll get to it, especially now that I have recording gear. So that's something that I'll be adding to my list of things I'm going to be doing this year.
Yeah. Well, so what kept me away from it for so long, and I was watching people make really decent money on it, was just the fact that for the longest time you had to pay so much.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
what I've noticed is most audiobooks sell for around the same price. Now the market is wide open. You can go to different people.
Right.
But the biggest thing I'm seeing is a lot of people actually want the authors to read the audiobooks narrated.
Yep.
And that seems to be getting bigger. And to me, that makes more sense. I would rather do that. That's something I can do. I can come home, find maybe the laundry room, maybe the bathroom, and just record a chapter at a time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'd be into that too. I just don't have the voice that I imagine my character having. My voice is a little bit more nasally than I prefer it to be. Also I'm a guy, and if I record Janie is from the perspective of a 12-year-old girl. So I'll probably have maybe a female do that one, but that is like ages down the road from right now. I haven't even published the fucking book yet, so.
To be fair, though, I remember being in fourth grade and listening to this audiobook. It's about this girl on this long, this trip with her grandparents going cross country. I think she moving now. It was like a big Americana adventure, and it was all from like the perspective of a 10-year-old girl. And I shit you not, it was narrated by like a woman.
That's amazing.
It was yeah. But so I'm just saying, like, it's a doable thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest thing I was seeing, and I don't know if people still do this, but they would hire narrators, and like the indie people were hiring narrators for every different character in their books and spending like tens of thousands of dollars, pretty much
Yeah.
making like a BBC style.
Right. Just like those old radio shows that did the narrated stories, it'd be like that with like the sound effects and shit. Battlefield Earth did that. If you see Battlefield Earth's audio collection, it's like a 6-inch thick thing, because it's not necessarily how long the fucking book is, even though it is kind of long. It is the fact that they have like an orchestra and different actors and all of that stuff. Yeah, there it is.
That's a different budget.
I forgot about that. Oh my god. I really just forgot all about that.
Think of what you're saying. That's a
It's-
different kind of budget.
It's coming back to me now.
Great books, though.
Yeah.
Movie, great books.
Yeah, so it's the movie and we'll call it good. Rotten Tomatoes rates it the 8th worst movie ever made in America.
They might move down a spot, because if you've heard of the new I'm not going to
Will Smith?
No.
Because he had a really bad movie in the last couple of years. What was it? Like After Earth or something like that.
Oh, the one him and his son did?
Yeah. It's so bad.
Well, so as someone who likes classic sci-fi, I think it was more in the classic sci-fi vein, in which it wasn't super action oriented.
Mm-hmm.
It's more about like, hey, this is space is scary, watch us do scary space stuff. Does that make sense?
I can see that, yeah.
Whereas it was, I guess I would call it pre-Star Wars science fiction.
Mm-hmm.
Because Star Wars is in your face, laser rattle, and that movie was more Star Trek. It was more about the science, which I can appreciate, but yeah, it was a very long movie. Definitely a different, I think, take for him. But no, this is, he's really funny. He was on SNL for the longest time. He was, the guys from Step Brothers have a new movie out.
Will Ferrell and,
There we go.
what's his name? I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, so they have a new movie out. It's called like Holmes and Sherlock.
Oh, yeah. Right. Huh.
Like, apparently it's so bad that people are walking out
Huh.
within 15 minutes. And here's the worst part. They're demanding refunds,
Wow.
which, like, movie theaters are getting. So I'm sure it's going to start getting dropped by, like, a lot of movie theaters.
Huh.
Which is crazy, because that duo is hilarious.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that. That sounds really interesting.
But yeah, apparently it's being touted as, like, the worst movie. I haven't seen it, so I can't say anything. There's a lot of movies I get told are super bad. And
Right.
I watch them and love them.
Huh.
But,
Yeah, I haven't heard anything about that movie. I just know it exists.
yeah.
Huh.
So yeah, 9%. I didn't know those ratings went that low.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole reason I'm talking about this is because I think Battlefield Earth became a better movie in light of it. So,
That's
you
fair.
know, that's one win for L. Ron Hubbard. He's now maybe 10th worst player,
Mm-hmm.
right behind Mondo the Handsome Man.
Oh, no.
You've seen that? I actually like that movie. It's not good.
Is that when they go to Mars? It's like a 70s one?
It is a 70s movie, and I don't really know how to describe it to you. It's one you almost have to watch to appreciate.
Like the set looks like high schoolers put it together.
It's the 70s. All the sets.
Yeah, that's fair.
Dude,
Like, it's like classic Who. Like all the sets are made of cardboard.
yeah. Do you not remember the original Star Trek?
Yeah.
Come on now.
Yeah.
There was one mask on the original Star Trek, and it was like straight out of like some deep movie.
Hmm.
And it was like the blocky, like paper mache thing.
Oh god.
Face, the mouths don't move. I appreciate old classic science fiction movies so much. I love that like tacky SF. So yeah,
Yeah, so the cover to my novel coming out, I think you're the one that told me that it has like a Goosebumps kind of vibe to it. Or have you seen it?
I remember your original cover had a Goosebumps vibe. The Raven and like blue splash, and it had like red guardian.
Yeah, that ended up changing because I didn't own that picture, and I needed to avoid being sued. So,
Always best.
so let me send that to you right now. Boom, there you go.
If you take nothing else away from this podcast, just remember that to always check where your sponsor talking is. Just in case.
And whenever you put the video together, if you want, you can use that to display because, yeah, that's just the cover. But yeah,
You don't have to tell me if you don't want to, but how much did you pay for this cover? God damn it.
$90.
Are you shitting me?
No, I'm not shitting you. $90.
Was it a pre-made or
No, this dude made it from scratch. He did a live video of him making it just to show me.
does he have a website?
He does. He does. I'm looking it up now. His name is Matt. Hold on. I'm not on Facebook, and all of his stuff is on Facebook, so I'm going through it the hard way. Hold on. Matt Ross Crafton is the artist, and he's super talented. He has a website on his Facebook. Hold on. It's called the Space Viking Productions.
Space Viking Productions.
That's right. And he has a Wix website. And he has,
Yeah, I hadn't seen that cover before. That cover's
yeah. But I paid $90 for that cover, and that smoky purple, that's going to continue to the back side of the book as well on the wraparound, and it's going to have some raven feathers in there too.
Do you have to pay? Once again, you don't have to get into it if you're not.
Right. Yeah, it is. The $90 is it's originally 80 for the front, but for the extra $10 he does the rest of the wraparound, which I think is fine. And it's $10 cheaper than what I paid for the Vacation Planet. So that's what I've got going for me, and I got a super crazy Goosebumps vibe for it, and I'm so excited that I don't even want to lose him as an artist, but his style is exactly. Yep. Well, if you go to his Facebook page, it's Matt Ross Crafton, excuse me, Crafton. Yeah, I'll send you the link, and then you can put it below, and he'd be more than happy to get your commissions. He's a really chill guy. Met him at... actually, remember, I talked about this in a previous episode. I went to the I went to the convention. He's the guy I met there. Yeah.
4 minutes left. Let's wrap up. Anything you want to plug?
I think the biggest thing we should take away from this episode is, find an outlet that is motivating for you to work with. I'm kind of a competitive guy when it comes to writing, especially. I want to write better and more than other people sometimes. So what I do is I hang out with people who motivate me to do so. But I also return that and try to return that favor to them. So find a way to motivate yourself, whether it's good music. I don't listen to music when I write, but whether it's music or some kind of special thing that you do to get ready, whether it's your drink of coffee, even if it's the only thing you eat all day, just whatever. Just find your thing and get to it. The best way to write a book is by writing it.
Yeah, that's actually really great advice to kick off 2019. I guess my version of that for anyone listening is going to be just to get your stuff out there. Get it? I mean, there's no sense of writing something and then hiding it away. So you never really know who's going to like it. I mean, that's kind of the truth of it. And there's
Yeah.
so many people, especially online, if you just, whether it's Wattpad or Medium or any of these sites, you just really work on, or even if, just your own blog, I think you would be very surprised to see how much interaction it actually gets.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's all until next week.
Yeah.
Great, guys.
All right, take care, guys. Do it later.